Even before the sea routes were named and ships dared to cut across the horizon, Poseidon was born, the son of Cronus and Rhea, brother of the heavenly thunderer and ruler of the underground shadows. His first breath did not touch the air, for his father's fear of prophecy was stronger than love. Cronus swallowed his children, seeking to stop the inevitable, and Poseidon found himself in darkness that knew neither time nor space. But even in the darkness, he remained a force, like a deep current hidden under a rock, patient and invisible. When Zeus rose up and forced the Titan to vomit up what he had swallowed, Poseidon came into the world not as a baby, but as an element that remembered the abyss. The war with the Titans shattered the old order, and after their victory the brothers cast lots to divide the cosmos. He got the sea, boundless, salty, dark, filled with ancient whispers. It was a space without boundaries, where the surface only hides the depths. At that moment, the sea received not just a ruler, but consciousness. The waves became an echo of his mood, the tides, the rhythm of his heart. The blue of the depths shimmered in his gaze. The weight of the ocean sounded in his steps. He did not stand above the waters. He was their continuation. Calm and storm, silence and roar, all this became part of his essence. And the world understood. Water is no longer just an element. It has a will. It has memory. It has a god. The symbol of his power was a trident, forged by cyclopses in the fiery depths, tempered by primordial chaos. Three powers were hidden in its three prongs: creation, destruction, and balance. When Poseidon clenched it in his palm, the water responded immediately. One movement, and the surface was broken by a wave. A second, and a spring burst from under a rock. A third, and the earth shook, reminding him of its own fragility. His chariot, drawn by seahorses with manes of foam, raced over the waves without touching them, like a storm that knows its way. Wherever it passed, the water became lighter or darker, depending on the god's mood. But his power was not chaotic. It obeyed the inner order of the depths, because Poseidon was not a conqueror of the elements. He was their heart. The trident could split a rock and create an island. It could destroy a port and give birth to a new coastline. It was a sign of the boundary between land and sea, between stability and chaos. People who settled near the water quickly realized that the sea could feed and enrich them, but it would never be completely controllable. Poseidon possessed duality. His power was both generous and dangerous, a gift and a punishment. And every wave that touched the shore was a reminder. The elements remember their master. Even immortals need recognition. Poseidon sought not only to rule the depths, but also to leave his mark on the hearts of the people who built cities on the shores of his domain. When the question arose as to who would become the patron of the newly born Attica, he stepped forward with the confidence of the elements. With a blow of his trident, he split a rock, and a spring burst forth from the crack. The water sparkled in the sun, but it was salty, a reminder of the power of the sea. It was a gift of strength, maritime superiority, trade, and dominion over the routes connecting the worlds. His gift promised ships cutting through the horizon, fleets carrying wealth, empires born on the waves. The salty water held a promise of discovery and danger, risk and glory. But Athena, goddess of wisdom, gave an olive tree, quiet, resilient, useful. It did not roar like a storm or sparkle like foam, but it promised peace, stability, and lasting prosperity. The people chose it. And although Poseidon did not destroy the city, resentment settled deep within it, like a storm held back. Since then, the coastal peoples have understood that the sea can be an ally, but it never forgets. Every temple built on the shore, every sacrifice made before departure was a sign of respect for a force that does not tolerate contempt. For the memory of mortals is another form of immortality, and Poseidon demanded it just as a wave demands space for its movement. From the depths of his being, creatures were born that bore the mark of the abyss. Poseidon was not only the ruler of the waters, he was the source of life, which was both frightening and enchanting at the same time. His son Polyphemus, a cyclops with savage strength, became the embodiment of primitive nature, untamed by human laws. When the cunning Odysseus blinded him, the god of the sea did not forget the insult. His revenge was not immediate. It stretched out over years, turning the hero's return home into a path of suffering, loss, and trials. Thus, Poseidon showed that time was only a tool for him, but not all of his children were monsters. According to ancient legends, it was he who created the first horse by striking the ground with his trident. From that crack burst forth a mighty creature with a mane like foam. The horse became a symbol of nobility, speed, and strength, a gift from the god of the sea to the land. This revealed his duality. He gave birth to both horror and beauty. His will combined chaos and harmony. Sea nymphs, monsters, giant bulls with copper horns. They were all part of one deep order. Through his descendants, he became intertwined with the fates of heroes and kingdoms, reminding them that the sea is not the edge of the world, but its invisible foundation. And every creature that rose from the depths was proof that the abyss was not empty. It was alive. It created. It remembered. When Poseidon was angry, it was not a sudden outburst. His rage matured slowly, like a tide that imperceptibly gained strength under the power of the moon. At first, the sea became heavy and dark, as if holding its breath. Then the wind changed direction. The sky was covered with low clouds, and the horizon disappeared, swallowed up by a leaden haze. Only experienced sailors could recognize these signs, harbingers of the divine presence. His wrath was born of human pride, of kings who forgot to make sacrifices, of fleets that set sail without bowing their heads, of heroes who believed that cunning or strength could deceive the elements. The storm was the answer. Not chaotic, but logical. Waves rose like walls, breaking masts, tearing sails, and throwing ships against the rocks. The roar of the storm sounded like a reminder. Man can sail the sea, but he can never rule it. But even in destruction, there was balance. The storm cleansed the coast, changed the landscape, created new bays, and destroyed old ones. The water washed away the traces of human arrogance and returned the world to its original order. Poseidon's wrath was not senseless. It was part of a great rhythm in which creation and destruction go hand in hand. And when the sea became calm again after the storm, the silence was filled not only with fatigue, but also with warning. Because every wave remembers that it can become a storm. In the deepest depths of the ocean, where sunlight does not penetrate, and where silence reigns, similar to eternity, stood Poseidon's palace. Its walls were made of coral and mother of pearl. The columns shone with a cold light, and the floor reflected the flickering of bioluminescent creatures. This place knew no storms. A slow, deep silence reigned here, in which even movement seemed like contemplation. Next to him was Amphitrite, the queen of the seas, calm as a steady current. Her presence balanced his power, like the surface balances the depths. The Nereids glided among the seaweed like living rays of light, and the sea creatures moved without fear, for here the element was home, not a threat. This palace held the memory of everything the sea had swallowed. Sunken ships, treasures, statues of gods, fragments of empires, all rested in the depths, not destroyed, but transformed. Poseidon was not only a destroyer, but also a guardian. He contemplated the currents as a sage contemplates time, understanding that even the most powerful storm is but a moment in the eternity of the ocean. Here, his power did not need to be demonstrated. It was a presence. like the pressure of water, invisible but inevitable. And in this deep silence, another side of the god was revealed. Not angry, but primal, calm, all-consuming. The sea remembers every challenge thrown at the god. It remembers the ships that proudly cut through the waves without offering sacrifices. It remembers the words of contempt spoken on the shores, where the sand seemed as hard as human self-confidence. Poseidon was not a god of quick anger. He was a god of depth. His revenge did not always come immediately. Sometimes it matured beneath the thickness of the water, slowly, like a storm brewing on the horizon. When King Laomedon deceived him after the walls of Troy were built, the sea responded with a monster. A creature made of salt and fury rose from the depths and rushed to the coast, destroying everything in its path. People screamed, prayed, and made sacrifices, but the wave was already on its way. This was Poseidon's reminder. Agreements with the gods cannot be broken without consequences, but his wrath was never blind. He could also be merciful. Fishermen who respectfully threw the first fruits of their catch back into the sea returned with rich nets. Sailors who raised their hands to the sky before setting sail found favorable winds. Poseidon could part the clouds, tame the waves, and calm the currents. He was a judge, but not an executioner for pleasure. His element punished pride, but rewarded respect. His wrath became most famous in the fate of Odysseus. For blinding Polyphemus, his son, the god turned the hero's journey into decades of suffering. Storms destroyed ships, islands became traps, and the shore receded when it seemed close. But even in this punishment, there was measure. Poseidon did not destroy him immediately. He allowed him to learn humility, to go through a path of purification through fear and loss. The sea became a test, but also a teacher. This was how the dual nature of the god manifested itself. He was not only a destroyer, he was a balance. His trident not only split the earth, but also cleared the way for new currents. His storms broke masts, but also cleared the air. And in every storm, in every wave, there was one reminder. Power without respect causes downfall, and humility is the key to the mercy of the sea. Poseidon did not need marble temples. Every shore was his temple. Every boat that crossed the horizon was his altar. And as long as people looked at the water with respect, the sea responded with silence instead of thunder. Even when empires fell and cities disappeared beneath the sands of time, the sea remained. It washed the same shores, heard new languages, saw new flags, but remained true to its original essence. Poseidon did not age with civilizations. He existed beyond them. His power did not depend on faith. It flowed in the very nature of the world. Each tide was his breath. Each ebb was his silent pause. In the depths, where no light penetrated, he kept the calm that preceded creation. There, in the cold darkness, lay the memory of the first days, when the earth had no names and water covered everything. Poseidon was the heir to that primordial infinity. People changed. They built lighthouses, laid trade routes, invented new ships. But even the strongest hull cracked under the pressure of the waves. The sea reminded them, progress does not cancel out the elements. Technology does not conquer the depths. It only tries to understand them. And yet there was beauty in this. Poseidon did not seek the complete destruction of humanity. He sought balance. When people listened to the sea, they learned. They understood the rhythm of the tides, respected the currents, read the sky. They became part of the great cycle, not its enemies. And then the wave carried them forward instead of engulfing them. In the modern world, his name is heard less often, but his presence is felt every day. In the sound of the surf, in the salty wind, in the anxious rumbling before a storm. Every storm is a reminder of a force that does not obey the laws of men. Every calm surface is a reminder of the mercy granted for a time. Poseidon is not just a myth. He is a symbol of immeasurable depth and incomprehensible power. He is in every drop of the ocean, in every wave that touches the shore and returns. And as long as the sea exists, his breath will echo between heaven and earth, reminding us of the grandeur, fear, and beauty of boundless water. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share your impressions of the video.